Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back, Monday edition, Dom.
Crute, happy Monday to you. Nate, welcome back. Working the board. Thank you, sir, our fair audience. Happy Monday to us all.
Dom, I'm a little under the weather, but I felt like I owed it to you and the audience to come and do a show today. You know, it's been 6 days since we did any trash talking on the radio, any politicking, Dom.
Right?
And here's the great news. Monday morning, we have a candidate. And no, it's not an opponent to Tammy Baldwin. I don't think they found anyone with that sort of courage, Dom.
Not yet.
But they did find a man who's a little foolhardy, and he's the former AG of the state of Wisconsin, a wanker appointee to the Waukesha County Court. And now, Dom, he's throwing his name out there again, this time for the highest court in the state of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Supreme Court. He wants to go against Ann Walsh Bradley. That's the good Bradley when she's on the ballot in 2025. So here he is declaring, Dom, in 2023.
Getting out there quick, man. It takes a while for Schimel to warm up, if I recall.
Dom, we've seen his campaign rollouts prior. And your friend, less mine, but your friend, Vicki McKenna.
Our colleague in radio.
Our colleague in talk radio. Inferior product down the dial. But anyways.
Aren't they all?
When he declared his candidacy the last time around, Dom, she had him on the show right away. And he was not ready for prime time. And she took some note of it, Dom. And here's what she said about the candidate, newly announced Brad Schimel, my bad.
Schimel, yeah, don't
conflate him and the GOP chairman, Brian Schimel.
Between the two of them, there's a B and an S. There's a lot of BS around here, Crute.
There is a lot of BS with these two. But let's turn it towards Vicki. What was her opinion of the candidate? His first campaign rollout, Attorney General. He's aiming high, Dom. How'd he do?
I suspect there's going to be a primary for the candidacy for Attorney General, but Brad's the first name that's actually officially, gotten into the race. I'm hoping that there is a vision to be fleshed out moving forward in the candidacy. Look, you can say no. Here, this is just how it works in media. You can always say no to a request for an interview, and I kind of wish Mr. Schimel had said no. I don't think he was ready for that. I mean, those are some pretty easy questions. I'm gonna invite Mr. Schimel back on. I think it was straight out of the box. He just wasn't ready for the interview. Should have just said no.
Just say no, Crute.
Did Nancy Reagan teach us nothing, Dom? So let's hear from the candidate, though. This, again, some time ago when he first ran for Attorney General, and shockingly, he was successful. That would have been the 2014 elective cycle, I believe. Yeah. And then he was defeated in 2018, the same year Wanker got sent packing when Evers and Josh Call won. And then he got appointed on Wanker's way out the door, right? Made him a judge.
So then he could Waukesha. Now, it's a step ladder for the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in 2025.
Now, Dom, I understand he lives in Waukesha County, but my understanding the candidate less convinced. Nate, we've got more sound of Brad Schimel, when he first announced as an AG candidate, let's remind the people of the quality of this candidate. A couple of his quotes.
I don't even know my own website address. I don't have a lot of expertise. I don't even know my own address.
I'm unconvinced if he lives in Waukesha County or not, Tom. He does not know his own address. Has anybody verified whether or not Schimel has bought up the right names? Did he buy up the Brian Schimming for Supreme Court? It could happen.
Brad
it could happen.
He also had some interesting comments interviewed. Again, this is back in 2014. I think it was I on Oshkosh did an interview with Brad Schimel. And
which is like cable access. Right. Could have said no to that one too, Brad.
And of course, Brad Schimel, the Republicans in general, Brad Schimel specifically, very, very law and order-y. Here's what he had to say in response to a question from Ion, Wisconsin. Play that one, please, Nate.
But if you had been Attorney General in, say, the 1950s in a state that did not allow interracial marriage, do you think the proper role of an Attorney General then was to not put himself or herself into the mix and say this is
deep
wrong?
Sigh.
Even
yeah, it is. Yeah. And I understand the argument.
Your job is to uphold the law, even if it's something that we might look back in the future as absurd or something.
Well, it might be distasteful to me.
Okay.
But
right. I appreciate your answer.
I've got to stay consistent with that as the state's lawyer. It's not my job to pick and choose.
I don't know how do you interpret that. And I know in my impression is some hardcore Republicans are, perhaps really not down for the interracial marriage. So it seems to me if Brad Schimel had the opportunity to enforce a law against interracial marriage, he would have to do it.
Deep sigh. But there'd be some sighing first.
Sure, yeah. So lots
deep
of
sighing first.
Yes, and fundraising, I'm sure.
Is there any credible coverage of this? Well, we've got our friend Jessie Apoyan at the Journal-Sentinel trying to put the best face on this candidacy she can. Former Republican Attorney General Brad Schimel plans to launch a campaign for Wisconsin Supreme Court this week, setting up an early challenge to the court, a newly cemented liberal majority. The court's newly cemented liberal majority. A source close to Schimel confirmed his plans to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel today. The Waukesha County Circuit Court judge, by appointment, has a special announcement scheduled. I remember all these, Tom. No other challengers have announced plans to run for the seat Bradley has held since 1995. Bradley, 73, told reporters in April when liberal Justice Janet Protasewicz was elected that she had plans to run again. Must be nice to serve in the majority for a change. It's been 15 years.
Right.
Now, Dom, Bradley fended off a challenge from Rock County Circuit Court Judge James Daly in 2015 with a 16-point victory margin. You're welcome, Ann Walsh. I think it was the Devil's Advocates bump we had her on the show a couple times.
Crute, Jesse Quinn goes on to rate at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The challenge to the court's longest-serving member could append the massive victory liberals secured in April with Protasewicz's 11-point victory, which flipped the court's ideological majority for the first time in years. That race was the most expensive judicial contest in U.S. history. Well, it was then. Wait till 2025, Crute. No concrete details about Schimel's campaign operation were immediately available. Crute apparently doesn't even know his own website. At least he didn't back in 2014. Perhaps he'll be a little more prepared this time. Schimmel's
he's got a year and a half to take a running start at it, Tom.
If we don't get it first, Schimmel's former campaign manager, Johnny Coromenos, works for the Republican Attorneys General Association and is expected to volunteer his time to support Schimmel's efforts. I will support Brad in anything he wants to do, and I think he's exactly the candidate we need, he told the Journal-Sentinel. Before serving as
I was just going to say, I think he's got a better shot at it than, let's say, Dan Kelly 3.0.
Can't spell Kelly without two L's. Schimel received a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and a law degree from the UW Law School. He joined the Waukesha County District Attorney's Office in 1990 and was elected Waukesha County District Attorney in 2006. Wisconsinites, here's a quote from Democratic Party Chair Ben Wickler. Wisconsinites rejected Schimel after a single term as Attorney General because his extreme politics and inept mismanagement became too great to ignore. With thousands of rape kits left untested at the state crime lab and millions as the court considers a number of high-profile cases, including a challenge to the state's electoral maps and an effort to eliminate funding for the state taxpayer-funded school voucher programs and independent charter schools. A challenge to the state's 1849 abortion ban is also expected to make its way to the high court. Brad Schimel getting in the race early. That man needs a long time to warm up. Let's put it that way.
Dom, I wasn't feeling great today, but the news of Schimel jumping in the race also encouraged me to jump on the radio with you because, I mean, if this is the best and the brightest the Republicans have to offer, Dom.
I'm sure there'll be a primary, Crute, right? I mean, wasn't there
I'm just going to say I'm unimpressed.
You can say
unimpressed.
No. You don't have to do an interview. You can say no. It is okay. Just say no.
I'm still trying to remember the details of the John Doe 3. Remember? Wasn't Schimel behind that? And didn't he decide ultimately we should destroy all the evidence? Isn't that
sounds
legal practice? I mean, did he learn that at UW or University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, Dom?
Yeah, that was the poli-sci major, not the law major portion of his education, perhaps.
Dom, we've also got some troubling news about the governor of the state of Wisconsin using a secret email address. He's got a pseudonym. Perhaps it's his porn name. We'll talk about it more in just a minute.
Malarkey. The devil's advocates invented malarkey.
Hey, come on.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Welcome back to reality, everyone. You can join us on the lines at 844-967-2789.
Dominic, the governor of the state of Wisconsin, has a false email name that he uses with some frequency, and apparently he's following the example of the prior gubernator of the state of Wisconsin, the Wanker. Wanker set the example, but Tony is choosing to follow this bad example. I don't think it's a good thing.
I don't like that idea.
Anything that was originated from Scott Walker's pea brain should not be followed or emulated. Also, did you see what he's using as the name, Dom? The false email address that he uses, apparently because he doesn't want to get spammed. But his false email name, porn name perhaps, Dom, Warren Spahn.
Who's Warren Spahn, Crute?
Well, he's a hell of a pitcher for the Milwaukee Braves back in the 1950s. Now, I was not old enough to see Warren Spahn play.
If Tony was.
Well, you know, if I was picking a pseudonym, porn name, email address, I'd pick someone from the current era of Milwaukee Brewers baseball, or maybe one of the classics, Hall of Famer.
Rowley Finger.
No, Paul Molitor. Although Rowley definitely had that porn stash thing going on.
Come on.
Oh, just call me Rowley Fingers. That works.
It's a bad idea. I don't like this idea whatsoever. Come on, you're public officials. You shouldn't be like having, We'll just get into the article. Tyler Katzenberger reporting. Crute, do you want to jump on that?
Sure. Conservatives are raising concerns about Governor Tony Evers using a pseudonym to communicate via email, a longstanding and bipartisan practice Wisconsin governors have engaged in for years to communicate about public business. That's not the way it's supposed to work, though. The concerns come after a conservative website, Wisconsin Right Now, published a now-defunct email address used by Evers to communicate with other government officials about public business. The email, warren.spawn@wisconsin.gov, is named after Hall of Fame Milwaukee Braves pitcher Warren Spahn. It is not listed in the public directories. Tony doesn't want us emailing him, Dom. Republican Governor Scott Walker, who was in office between 2011 and 2019, what do you know, also used a pseudonym, Kevin.Scott at Wisconsin.gov.
Is that Scott P. Walker or Scott K. Walker?
He used that to communicate via email, according to Walker's former chief legal counsel, Katie Ignatowski. And the alternative email allowed Walker to use an inbox that wasn't flooded with emails from constituents. Because who in the world would ever want to hear from us, Tom? Though she noted constituent emails were handled by staff, he wasn't ever going to pay attention anyways.
You know what I feel like, I can't go tonight. I got to clean up my inbox.
And that Walker still saw such emails as needed. The boss was on a need-to-know basis. You don't need to know about what's going on, wanker. Ignatowski, said Walker's administration worked with attorneys in the State Department of Justice and felt there was a legal basis to protect Walker from being emailed directly, given that there were other ways for constituents to contact the governor's office. I tried many times, Dom. 266-1212. Never answered.
Nope.
Never answered.
If there were things he needed to see, it's not like he never saw them. It would just come through an alternative channels. There's a lot of triage that happen. Yeah, I guess it's going to have to happen when you got lots of email addresses. The practice was...
And you got to clean up lots of messes.
Right. The practice was discouraged by the Department of Justice under former Republican Attorney General Brad Schimel, according to former Assistant Deputy Attorney General Daniel Lennington, who now works for the conservative legal firm Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. Evers' spokeswoman, Britt Crute, said in an email Monday that non-public facing email addresses are a digital security practice used for more than a decade. Such threats include phishing, spam, and other email correspondence that could monitor, disrupt, or otherwise breach state information technology infrastructure. Both Walker and Evers regularly provided public records from the alternate email addresses, according to Ignatowski, and responses to past requests for records from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. In fact, in every instance in which our office has provided such responsive records, we have explicitly made requesters aware of these addresses and the purpose of the redaction in providing responsive records, Crute wrote. Lennington told the Journal-Sentinel the practice definitely has happened in previous administrations. However, he said it was not condoned or recommended by the Wisconsin Department of Justice and Office of Open Government. Yeah, you think? At least since he worked for the DOJ from 2012 to 2019. In fact, it's been explicitly discouraged. Lennington said the entire purpose of using an alias is to evade public scrutiny. If the idea is there should be multiple email addresses for the governor because he needs one to avoid clutter, officials could easily create an additional email address using the name that makes it clear who the official is. Spokeswoman for Attorney General Josh Call did not immediately respond to questions from the Journal-Sentinel. Bill Leaders, president of the President of Government Transparency Watchdog, Wisconsin Freedom of Information Council, questioned the Evers administration's justification for withholding email addresses from public records. It strikes me as just nonsense. There's a way in which digital security can be compromised for every email address. Basically, if that argument holds, then no email addresses of anyone should ever be made public. Tom.
Now you're starting to catch on, Dom.
Right.
They don't want to share.
President and founder of the Wisconsin Transparency Project and Open Records Watchdog Group didn't think the email's use was inherently problematic as long as public records were being shared properly. Still, he questioned what he called a fox in the henhouse problem. It doesn't violate open records laws, but the real risk is that it creates the opportunity for abuse. If people make records requests for their governor's emails, how do you know if they're searching those secondary email accounts? You don't unless they admit they exist. The alternative email reported by Wisconsin Right Now has been inactive for years and bounced a Monday morning inquiry from the Journal Sentinel. Evers continues to use a different non-public facing email that is redacted on a record sent from the governor's office.
Following the fine prior example of Scott Walker. I mean, saying it's been happening for a decade means it happened under Scott Walker and now it's happening under Tony Evers. I don't think this is a great idea. It's not a good look. Can't we just be above reproach?
I have many email addresses. It's kind of a pain in the ass to check them all. I have them all.
You're
going
not a
to my
public
Outlook
figure, though, Dom.
No, I get that. And I guess my point is, I understand that it can be burdensome to get through the spam and all that kind of stuff. Sure, okay, but you got staff, man. And again, it's not like Scott Walker's not going to the fundraiser because he's got to clean out his email box. You know what I'm saying? I
do know because
how do we know that there's only two? How do you know there's not a third or a fourth or a fifth? I mean, come on, people. When government accountability groups think it's a bad idea, when the Republican and the different DOJ officials say no, it's explicitly not advised to do that, and they still do it. Well, I guess that's their call to make, but it doesn't look good, and I don't like it.
I'm just assuming Tony's exposing his porn name, Warren Spahn. More devil's advocates. You could be a part of this big show. I'm not feeling it. Dom's doing okay. You could be the star.
You.
844. You, Danny. 844-967-2789. Your calls could be next.
I ain't forgot about you, boo. With my man Bug there. Talk about that J-Rock Crute. Coming at you, baby. I put your boogie shoes on.
Any music you want to hear for the next two segments? Hard? Let me see. Probably. Times are hard. Whose times are hard by?
Sooner or later, life will pull you in.
Hard times. Well, hard times. I think Dom can. We have a Jeannie from Eau Claire on. That's the only call at the moment. If you want, I can put callers in the chat and StreamYard here. Dom, if you have any music requests throughout the show, just text them to me.
All right, we'll do it.
Per usual.
Per usual. Thanks, dude.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a Back to Work Monday edition. Hope everyone had a great and safe and grateful Thanksgiving holiday weekend. I got to tell you, Dom, I'm not fully recovered. I'm on the mend, though. I'm sitting here at home.
Eat too much turkey, man? I mean, what happened?
Technically, I think and no turkey touched my lips. I'm not a turkey guy, so it wasn't the turkey.
You just never had it made properly for you, man.
We tried a new Korean place on Saturday night and found ourselves there inadvertently because the place we wanted to go to had terrible service. Well, the service was excellent, and they had this scale for the food I chose. I chose a little Korean barbecue Dom, but the scale was spicy to pain. And I got to tell you, I've been on the pain end of that spectrum. My prediction, pain. I've been living it, Dom. Let's just say I have been rolling around holding my belly for like 36 hours.
Oh, no, dude.
But although the body's not willing, the mind is able. I'd like to think, so let's keep doing a show, man, and let's keep bringing our callers in because life gets easier with callers at 844-967-2789. Don't let your buddy Crute down today or you'll get stuck with just Dom.
Uh-oh, don't do that. Jeannie from Eau Claire, you are up. Welcome, Jeannie. What do you got for us today?
Hey, Jeannie.
Hi, guys. Well, I have to say I've been very thankful all Thanksgiving because, you guys have did such an outstanding job, with civic media, and it's just, like a gift to all of Wisconsin, and just very, very thankful for all the work you do and all the outstanding programs that you guys have do. And I just love Mrs. Crute. She's got a really great show. I mean, you guys got a variety and all really special people, and all the people that are your producers, answer the phone. I mean, it's just outstanding. But the reason that I called is that I got to tell you that our governor, his office does return calls, and I've had several calls returned because you know me, I call situations and I get calls back. So, and I'm polite though, so I have to tell you that one. But he does return, not him, but his office does return calls, and they do pay attention to what people have to say. So I want to give them kudos for that, guys. I don't have email or anything like that, but I still use the phone, and I've been really impressed. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents worth on that.
Appreciate that. Jeannie, did you reach out to the former governor, Scott Walker's office over the years, and what was the response like then?
Yes, I did. Oh, and with their office, I'll tell you one thing, is that's when I quit taking phone surveys, on who you're going to vote for and stuff, was when Scotty Walker was running, in the recall election. I got phone calls from him, from people working on his campaign, pretending they were surveyors, doing the surveys, and they were just awful. In fact, I called public radio on that one because I never had a survey where they would argue with me and push their points. And I thought, oh, no more. I ain't answering the phone if it's anybody asking about Republicans. I'm sorry to say, but they've all turned like the Scotty Walker branch. So anyway, thank you so much for taking my call, and keep up the great work. I'm so proud of you guys. You do an outstanding job.
Wait. I got one last point for you, Jeannie. Did you hear my little conversation with CJ on Thanksgiving Day?
No, where do I find it? Because I want to hear it.
The entire conversation, a 1-hour conversation, has now been podcasted thanks to the hard work of Nate. But I knew you didn't listen because nobody did. I looked at the numbers. Nobody listened. It's Thanksgiving. People don't do politics on Thanksgiving. But if you want to go back, that CJ conversation, the full, unedited, it exists as a podcast. Find it at the civicmedia.us. And I would recommend you don't do that.
Well, I want to hear you. I think that'll be great. I'm going to listen to it after the show today. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And have a good evening, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie. You too. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeannie. 844-967-2789. She's always so nice, Jeannie. So different than you. And some other audience members. Here's Andrew from Verona. I think I'll buy Crute a bottle of the world's spiciest pepper sauce for Christmas. I might not live to the new year if you did, Andrew.
You got to work up. You got to build your system up, man.
I have never been so miserable for the last couple of days, and I had abdominal surgery a couple years back. This hurts worse.
Okay, so I want to be clear here, though. Is it because there's bugs going around, there are viruses going around, whatever. Are you tying this to too much spice?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes,
without question.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Rolling stomach cramps for 2 days, attributable to like a painful amount of spice, and I don't know if he's getting over on the the white dude. Here's where I think we went wrong. This guy said, well, I used to be over here. And my wife said, oh, I knew there was a reason we'd seen you before, but we never ate there, right? So he probably figures we weren't going to be regulars anyways. And he gave me the full spicy.
But the
painful spicy.
Did you ask? He gave you a range of spice
of 2 to 5, 1 to 5.
1 to 5.
One being not spicy, 2 being spicy,
and 5 being
spicy
pain.
is 2.
Yeah,
and 5 being like death by Korean barbecue.
And what did you?
I requested the 2, but I ended up somewhere on the pain category.
Okay, so you think perhaps it was they didn't, or maybe the 2 was just stronger than you thought it would be.
I mean, if that's 2,
I'm just saying, man.
I'd be dead at 3 or 4 or 5.
Well, maybe
I'd be dead.
Yeah, see, but you don't eat that stuff like every day. You're not, how often do you eat spicy food, Mike?
Me, I like to eat spicy food. I got no qualms. I like Cajun. I like Italian, although that's usually garlicky spicy. That's not the same sort of spicy.
Right.
But, back when I had a favored Chinese joint in this town, I used to like it a little spicy, and every so often I get the Mongolian beef with a few too many peppers in it. I've been on the edge of spicy, Dom, but I crossed that line somewhere along Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I crossed that line, and I've been regretting it ever since.
Maybe the spice just didn't mix well with the rum.
Well, I wasn't drinking rum. Actually, they had very affordable spotted cows, 2 of them, $5 for a spotted cow. That's not a bad deal. So I had 2 spotted cows.
All right. So was it? Wow, man. Tough. I'm glad you're on the mend, man. I hope you feel better soon.
I do too, because otherwise you're doing the show without me the next couple days.
Just drink lots of milk, man. And none of that skim.
I don't even
whole milk. Hope that
water. Milk. I'm not even drinking my beloved Diet Mountain Dew, Dom. Water. I'm basically fasting on water right now.
No Diet Mountain Dew? Man, how many days has it been since you had a Diet Mountain Dew?
About 36 hours.
Oh my goodness! You're probably
Saturday night till now.
You're going through.
No, that's not true. I had a Diet Dew on Sunday.
Okay,
I had a Diet Dew on Sunday, but by Sunday night I was in serious pain. I was up every 2 hours. And
Oh no, dude, it was terrible.
I got maybe a solid 90 minutes straight of sleep at any given time. And here I am whining about it on the radio because that's what everybody wants to hear about. Hey, you hear Crute's got a stomach flu or can't handle his Korean food? I don't know what the problem is, but can we talk some more politics? That's what the people are probably wondering, Dom. Little politics.
Just a little.
I've got an idea for us, Dom. We could talk about the new maps. If, Crute gets his true hope, we'll have new legislative maps here in the state of Wisconsin. We'll turn over the gerrymander that we've suffered through for more than a decade here in the state of Wisconsin. And at the online daily urbanmilwaukee.com, Stephen Walters reports justices favoring new legislative maps. Well, Dom, they face tough choices. Extra spicy choices, some might say. The 4-justice state Supreme Court majority that seems intent on ordering some new legislative district maps must answer some very complex logistical and political questions in whatever ruling it issues. In 3 hours of lively debate last week, conservative justices repeatedly stressed that the district lines the court ordered in April of 2022 is a legal precedent that should not be overturned until new maps are drawn in like 2031, Dom. Everybody knows why we're here, said conservative justice, the bad Bradley, Rebecca, challenging lawyers for the Democratic legislators and other groups who want new maps drawn before the November 2024 elections. And Bradley referred to the April election of Justice Janet Protasiewicz, who replaced retiring conservative Justice Pat Rogansack. Next time I go out for lunch with Pat, I'm going to give her some spicy Korean, who was one of the 4 justices that put in place the current boundaries. The Democrats insist unfairly favor Republicans who've controlled the legislature for 12 years. And the April 22 ruling putting current lines in place was conclusive, the bad Bradley insisted, asking lawyers for the Democrats why they sat on their hands and didn't file the new challenge until Protasiewicz joined the court in August. Well, we all know why. Don't we, Dom?
We do. Crute, but that reconsideration question was decided in October when the new 4-justice majority ordered that current legislative district lines be reviewed, and Protasiewicz refused request to recuse herself from the rehearing. That shifted the debate to important questions the 4-justice majority will have to decide. First, number 1, Crute. How badly do the current lines for the 99 assembly districts, which are the building blocks for the 33 Senate districts, fail constitutional requirements that districts be contiguous and compact and respect town boundaries as much as possible? ? Should new maps be redrawn statewide or only regionally? The number of islands of voters whose homes are not physically connected to the assembly districts they are assigned to is unconstitutional and shocks people, argued Mark Gaber, one of the several attorneys asking for new maps. Over half the assembly districts in this state have a contiguity problem, said Justice Jill Karofsky. If we find these maps unconstitutional, don't we just start all over? But minor adjustments, quote unquote, in only 3 regions, Oshkosh, Madison, and Eau Claire, would move about 15,000 voters to new assembly districts and fix most of these problems, countered Rick Essenberg of the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. You can fix this problem, he added. You exist to solve legal problems, not to redistrict anew. Well,
I'm sure that's the solution. They had like 3 new boundaries, and Dane, Eau Claire, and what was the third?
Oshkosh, Madison, and Eau Claire, yep.
Well, 2 of those 3 districts are pretty damn blue, and I got to say the Oshkosh area and the most recent, the Protasiewicz race, a lot bluer than it used to be.
Number 2, Crute, if both Assembly and Senate boundaries the court approved last year unconstitutional, should special elections be held in November 24 for the 17 senators who won 4-year terms last November? ? That would mean that all 132 legislators, 99 Assembly members, and 33 senators would be up for re-election in November of 2024. A quote from Bradley: unseating the 17 senators who won 4-year terms last year would be an extraordinary remedy. I can't imagine something less democratic. Protasiewicz seemed to agree forcing those 17 senators to run again an extreme option. Third, who should draw the new map since justices made it clear they do not have the technical expertise to do so? Justice Dallett asked the question of every lawyer who appeared before the court, saying she wanted to make sure no special interest group put a thumb on the scale. And fourth, Crute, would court-drawn maps violate the constitutional requirement that power be shared equally between the executive branch of government, headed by the governor, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch? Lots of questions, Crute. Lots of questions. But we know they're unconstitutional. If you 17 senators got elected with unconstitutional maps, run again. I'm fine with it. Let's get to it.
You know, ironic that Annette Ziegler would say, we don't have the facts before us. Why start it here and why start it now? This was fast track to the end game. This was a Republican, a conservative that was more than willing to take original jurisdiction on anything they wanted to overturn. That's why. More Devils. 844-967-2789.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, 844-967-2789. Going back to the lines. Hoosier Bob, you are next. Welcome, Bob. What do you got for us?
Hey, Bob.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Okay. Concerning adverse reactions to capsaicin, which is what you're suffering. All right. Did you try baking soda and water?
I've barely been able to choke water down.
Dude, you've got to counteract the acid. That's what's eating you up.
That I believe.
You need a base. You need a base. Baking soda is the nearest and possibly the most efficient one you're going to take.
So how much?
This sounds all very.
I mean, like this, like a teaspoon in a glass
like
of water, or what are we talking about? Like,
take a teaspoon of baking soda. Reach into the refrigerator and get the box out of the back if you have to.
Oh, that's got all the smells in it, though. That's not going to help my upset tummy.
Yeah, think about what you're expelling right now.
Nobody needs that visual.
No, Bob, we don't want to think about that, but we appreciate the medical advice, Bob.
Yeah. But
can I
just take a teaspoon of baking soda, put it in at least 8 ounces of water or 10, and drink it and get ready to start burping.
Well, that doesn't work well on the radio, Hoosier Bob.
Well, you're going to have to start breaking that stuff down, because if it gets down to where it wants to leave you voluntarily, you ain't going to like it.
No, you won't. Thanks for the call.
My prediction, pain.
Or pain. That's a great, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds logical. You heard it on the radio. Bob said it, so it must be true. Maybe do a little Google on that, Crute, and have you tried anything? Have you taken anything for it, man? Like over the counter? Have you?
Well, I just thought I'd be okay for day one. I was a little uncomfortable, but it was day 2, Sunday night, that kicked my ass, and I've felt terrible all day today. Get the chills. I'm wrapped in an Afghan right now. I'm broadcasting wrapped in a grandma Afghan, Dom. That's all I'm feeling.
Oh, man. 844-967-2789. Politics, healthcare. What do you got for us? Cindy from Appleton. Welcome. What do you got?
Hey, Cindy.
Hello. Well, Curdy, I honestly think that a conversation for 1 hour with CJ would be much more painful than a Mongolian barbecue.
Yeah, but I got to end the conversation with CJ. This has not stopped yet. This pain is unrelenting.
Bob might be onto something, though, because, that does actually kind of kill acid. So I guess you got nothing to lose by giving it a shot anyway. So let us know how it works.
All right.
Well, if you hear me burping in the next hour, Cindy, you'll know what happened.
You got anything else for us today, Cindy?
Have a good night.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. 844-967-2789. Crute, I don't know about you, but if I were you, I'd try some hydroxychloroquine or perhaps some ivermectin. I mean, I would listen to the senior senator from Wisconsin. Try all the drugs, Mike.
I have strongly considered that as my game plan, trying all the drugs.
Everything all the time. You're like an Eagles song.
Well, here's the problem. If my wife's like, why don't you go to the doctor? I'm like, well, it's the first really bad day. If it's still going on Tuesday or Wednesday, I'll make a trip in. But, what are they going to do? Give me some pain pills? That'll just bind me up. Give
me a glass of water, baking soda, and a $500 bill.
Drink it, Crute. Drink it.
Go, go, go.
I'm drinking water sans baking soda. No special diet dew for me today.
Crute, man, off the dew. Keep with it. 844-967-2789. Callers, be patient. We got Nate working the phones. This urban Milwaukee piece, Crute.
Yes.
Justices favoring new legislative maps face tough questions. Stephen Walters reporting from today, urbanmilwaukee.com. You mentioned how ironic it is that some of these Republicans, why are we here? This is so quick. And what about these 17? And apparently Protasevich is like, okay, yeah, maybe that is a little extreme. But I got to tell you, man, if we're on these maps are the result of unconstitutional gerrymandering, why wouldn't we do everything we can to fix them now? I mean, we have elections every year. There's always something going on. Why would we possibly wait until 2030, 2031 to enact new maps if you know that they're unconstitutional? 844-967-2789. Dick, you're up. What are your thoughts?
Hey, Dick.
Hello, Dick. You're on the air.
Apparently sick to his stomach.
Oh,
hey, how you doing, Dick?
Are you sure it's not as a result of the conversation with CJ? I mean,
we got a couple of people that actually did listen. It wasn't a big number. It was Thanksgiving.
I'm surprised, to be honest with you, that it didn't have the ratings of, say, when MASH went off the air or Seinfeld. I was really expecting something like that. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
here's my qualm with the conversation. I was actually, it was my choice. I made the conversation of my own volition. I brought the Trumpster troll band for the pumpkin spice season, CJ, and we had a human conversation. But here's the problem, Dick. Nobody wants to stick around for an hour of me trying to convince a Trumpster to be a human.
Were you face to face with this? Did you actually?
We actually started out like Dom and I did. We were face to face through a virtual because he's a snowbird. Apparently, CJ's vacationing down south. But eventually, we did have some issues. So a lot of it was phone after we got started. But still damn.
Well, I'll have to check it out when I want my blood pressure to go up.
You might be surprised. Here is a texter. We listened. It was so good. Kelly from Madison. Got to wonder about Kelly's taste. But anyways, here's another one. Dana, our buddy from La Crosse. I did listen to the second half hour on my drive home from dinner. Apparently he's also upset stomached. And here's one. Was it Tom's red pepper? No, it wasn't. But somebody's pepper got me. Here's a couple more. Beef Jerky Chew does a good number on the acid, coming from a man who does lots of diet soda. There's some Bob love. And then Camps says Viagra helps. That's not going to help.
Crute, can you hear me there? Hey, Crute, just a heads up. There's some weird issue with the CJ podcast, so it's not quite up yet. It should be up tomorrow. I'll throw it up on the Facebook when it is officially live. Yep. Should be up tomorrow. And I'll throw it on the Facebook when it is. Any music you want to hear to end segment 1 or begin segment 2? Dom, anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Crute. No, man, just give me some rock and roll, man, or some punk.
I'll get something.
All right, thanks, dude.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hot Monday edition. Mostly, I mean, my belly. Not in a sexy sort of way, but like a on fire sort of way.
When you say Crute's belly, I don't think sexy. I'm sorry, man. You had some spicy food. You're not feeling too good, man. I know there's lots of remedies out there. Right? You're just dealing with it, man. You're just sucking it up and just hoping it goes away, huh?
Well, I've been drinking lots of water and nothing else. But I've got Jeff sending me home remedies. I got someone else on the text line sending me home remedies. In fact, Jeff says bad advice radio. I think he's implying Hoosier Bob gave me some bad advice.
The baking soda and water advice?
That's not the way to make the hot peppers stop burning, apparently.
Crute, try all
drink, and I will try all the drugs. Eat avocados, oranges, or nuts. Drink lemonade, soda, or juice. Check. What about whiskey? How about rum? Is that on the list?
Rum with soda. I mean, you need like acid to help counteract the acid. I'm not clear.
I'm not either. Let's move on to the former president's Thanksgiving indigestion, Dom. He's suffering himself, it would appear.
We have a caller, Shane from Poinette, wants to talk about Wisconsin gerrymandering and spicy foods. So let's put a bow on.
Oh, that's a daily double.
Yeah, I know, man. So Shane, you are up. Welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What do you got for us?
Hey, Shane.
Well, I got 3 tips. First of all, with the heat, I recommend black coffee at the time of the super hot, spicy food. That black coffee will kind of quell that hotness. So, and
I don't even drink coffee on a normal day. That's 2 days too late.
Oh, wow.
But let's hear what you got to say about the gerrymandering.
But come on, man. You wouldn't normally do if you take medicine for an ailment unless you have the ailment. So it's not. All right, Shane, black coffee, and that's for like the hot on the lips kind of thing going on. That you mean?
Yeah. When you first Yep. And when you're sweating and you can't, you got to run out the door. Well, try some hot coffee. But
All right.
with the
What else?
gerrymandering, I think follow what the Republicans did. Hire somebody like Michael Best and Friedrich and have the people swear to secrecy, do everything, under the table, and but hire somebody like Law Forward to redraw the maps. The way they did it back in 2010 with the secret Robin Voss oath. And my third tip is open primary in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan. So next November, next when the primary comes, vote Republican and vote for Nikki Haley or anybody but Trump.
You got to be really careful doing that sort of strategery. It was 2012, and I also wanted to do a little electoral strategery, let's just say, Dom. And I found myself wondering if it was a worthwhile endeavor to try and extend Rick Santorum's presidential campaign. Rick Santorum was the Republican. He was going up against Romney, but he was still, in March of 2012, he was still alive. And until Romney could take out Rick Santorum, he was wasting a lot of resources. So I took it upon myself to do the frothy Santorum. I went to the bowling place and I did the most despicable political act of my life. I voted for Rick Santorum. And then I probably invalidated my ballot by also voting for Tammy Baldwin in the Senate race on the Democratic side. Partisan primaries, and they come in August. I've learned a few things in the last decade.
You can only go on one side. Thanks for the call, Shane. Appreciate it.
I don't know if we want to be messing around in the Republican primary. I mean, if you think back here in the state of Wisconsin, 2016. Well, first we were a Scott Walker state, right? Presidential, Republicans. And then we were a Marco Rubio state. And then we were a Ted Cruz state. Everybody hated Trump. Everybody hated Trump amongst the right-wing talk radio people. And then he won the primary. And they decided they could probably steal a Supreme Court seat as well. Merrick Garland never moved on his seat, never impaneled him, never had a confirmation hearing. So it worked out pretty okay, Don. But if you'll recall, Ted Cruz won the Wisconsin primary by double digits. Would you ever encourage any human being to go out there and vote for Ted Cruz?
It'd be hard to. I know. We were critical.
Vivek Ramaswamy
of some of the efforts of Democrats, putting money behind some, mega type candidates over, in different states in the last cycle. And it ultimately worked out. You hate to see Democratic money, number one, going towards a Republican that you want to just mess the game up, eventually win. And also, denying other Democrats, money that they could use to actually legitimately win their election. But there is strategy involved in politics, certainly. And there's been folks doing it a whole lot longer than I've been paying attention. So, all I can do is what I decide to do. And to Shane's other point about how the Republicans used a law firm and made different election officials, different candidates sign non-disclosure agreements in order to view the data and tell them, you're going to get a couple extra points here, a couple extra points there.
And they didn't tell them in cumulative. So they would show you your district. How do we know this? We had Dale Schultz on the show all the way back in 2014. He told us that he had to go sign an NDA. He had to go off campus, and they would only show him that his district was just a little more red. And that's all they told him. But what they didn't say is, and we've baked this red across the whole state of Wisconsin through perhaps the most partisan gerrymander in the entire nation.
And that was done with the help of I guess, a conservative law firm, perhaps. I mean, whatever. They're getting paid. They're going to do the job. But I guess my point on that, Shane, you said, maybe use Law Forward. Law Forward is in lots of lawsuits in this regard. A more liberal law firm, let's call it. But I'm not down for playing those kinds of games on either side. What I truly want are representative maps, man. That's what I want. and then ideas and candidates actually matter. I don't want to, I don't want to do the same thing the Republicans did just because I certainly like the policies more, but that doesn't solve the problem. That just makes it that behavior that I find problematic being done by folks that I would vote for. I'm not down for that. I want accurate and fair and transparent maps for everybody. And then we could all, engage, because not only does this polarize, when you have this gerrymander to this degree, polarize the parties, and specifically the red party in this state, it turns people off from engaging in self-governance. And I know it's my opinion that there are many Republicans, and they've stated it historically in the past, they don't want everybody to vote. The more people that vote, the more problematic it becomes for the Republican Party and conservatives, especially in the state of Wisconsin. So, no, man, I want accurate and fair and transparent maps, and let the best candidate and ideas win. How very idealistic.
Well, fair is fair, Dom, and I'm not looking for, an eye for an eye per se, but how about 12 years of electoral dominance for the Democrats? Just to even it up for a decade or so. So don't we deserve that sort of electoral gerrymandering?
I mean,
as the blue team, Dom, it's been a long time since
I get it.
We were in charge and doing our malfeasance.
So then where does it end then, man? An eye for an eye, pretty soon the whole world's blind. Rudy, you can't go forward and be critical of certain behavior, and then when we get the chance, engaged in it, it kind of makes us hypocrites, or me a hypocrite. I have a big problem with being a hypocrite about it. So I'm try to be consistent, like Schimel. Try to be consistent in my beliefs, because ultimately I think it's best for the country. It's best for the voters. It's best for the citizenry. It's best for those who want to engage in self-governance, man.
Yeah, but just a decade plus two. That's all I'm asking for. Just 12 years.
Just 12 years? Just slam it for 12 years?
Just 12 years to right the wrongs of Scott Walker. It would probably take longer than 12 years.
Then Democrats should, not listen to or bring a U.S. Supreme Court justice up for nomination, like, do Garland on the other side. You think that's appropriate as well? So when the Republicans put forth a candidate, the majority in the Senate, the Dems, they just decide not to bring them up for a vote because you did it to us. I mean, is that what you want to get?
Well,
to?
Based on the current 6-3 math, hell yeah. Let's do it. Let's do this, man.
I can't. No,
Why?
Man, no.
Are we the wusses?
Is that what it is? You think it's wuss? You think it's being a wuss to not want to engage in the same belligerent behavior that your adversaries do? I don't know if I would agree with that terminology, but we got a caller, John from Wausau, 844-967-2789. Welcome, John. What do you got for us?
Welcome back, John.
That last guy was actually pretty smart. If Democrats really wanted Trump not to advance in these primaries, since the Democrats aren't running one for Biden this year, the Democrats should go out and vote for whatever Republican they want and then block Trump from being even the primary. There's a thought.
John, what if some of us are strategically cheering for Trump in the primary because we think the 91-time indicted, soon-to-be convicted felon is going to have a hard time, in the 2024 elective campaign? I'm kind of rooting against the guy. I got to be honest with you, John.
Well, you think that's what's going to happen, but, these recent polls where he's up in 6 or 7 swing states, that's not looking good either for Biden. So,
John,
that's to consider, too.
I've been up night with an upset stomach thinking about it, my friend.
Yeah, well, just
now,
a thought there.
Are you a Trump guy? You going to vote for Trump?
What?
You going to vote for Trump?
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the primaries play out.
I'm going to put you down for a probably yes, John.
Definite maybe.
Come back. Your phone calls are next. 844-96-PARTY.
the Devil's Advocates. Radio for nasty women everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, taking your calls at 844-967-2789. Be patient. Nate will get to you shortly.
Dom, I was unaware, but according to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, today is Thank a Plow Driver Day. Snowplow Driver Appreciation Day, November 27th, 2023. I got to tell you, the most disappointing thing about the last week here, that snow, dude. That and the sore stomach, but the snow's worse.
Come on.
Because that's not going to be gone for months.
What are you talking about? It's going to be like 40 some degrees in like 2 days. Don't worry about it. It'll melt. It's not going to stay. And it helps the hunters track the deer, man. Right, Nate? You got to have a little snow if you don't drop it on the first shot.
They only had snow for the last day of the gun deer hunt. 1 day. That's not exactly a robust.
All it takes is 1 day. All it takes is one shot, baby. 844-967-2789. Let's keep going on the lines. Cam from Nina, you're up. Welcome, Cam. What do you got for us?
Hey, I wanted to address something that the previous gentleman who had called in said, where he was asked if he would vote for Trump, and he said he doesn't know yet. He wants to see how the primaries go. I think anyone that says these sorts of things are liars, and the world is laughing, because you had years to know what his policies were, how much of a liar their entire party is. Are you really willing to support people that are completely willing to defend people like George Santos from staying in office, who clown like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene? I don't like you're just purposefully electing headaches. I don't understand. I can't understand.
Change agents, perhaps chaos agents, Cam. Well, I would say this: if I think it's kind of a non-answer, because the answer really is, well, I'll vote for Trump if he makes it through the primary. That's what I get out of it. Now, does Trump make it through the primary? I mean, probably. That's what it's looking like right now, Cam. But if the answer is we'll see how the primary goes, well, if Trump's on the ticket after the primary, guys like that perhaps will probably
John's voting for him. Voting for him.
But
CJ
we still don't know. There could, if convictions, and I think there will be, come down prior to that would impact, I think, some people's ideas. Cam, what do you think?
I think that your integrity is flawed if you are still willing to vote for red because red and no other reason. You are a single issue voter, and the single issue is that you are a moron.
I mean, that's one way to put it, Cam. Appreciate the call, man. 844-967-2789. CJ, you're up. Happy Monday, CJ. What do you got for us?
Hey, CJ.
Hey there, gentlemen. I got a call, Crute, that you're talking people out of here in my interview with you.
It's already aired, man. People can get the podcast. It's not up today. Apparently, I misstated the availability of the CJ podcast, so don't go looking yet. It's not up yet. So my apologies, CJ. But any other trolling or Crute trashing you got in mind for the day?
Well, I did get some response myself, because people did hear the debate and, well, the conversation, as you call it, that, you don't like crunching numbers because you don't like facts. And I'm used to that. I heard that, and that's what they, that's the response I got.
I conceded all your numbers, CJ.
You put these guardrails up for me because you can't defend your argument. Kind of like Cam, because he obviously doesn't buy groceries or pay for heat or electric or
no,
anything
you think CJ?
Because...
Of course he does. Of course he does. Everybody does, CJ. So that's a misnomer. So now the question is, and let me ask you, and I think I know your answer, but I'll let you say it. Is inflation the biggest issue right now facing this country? Are you going to vote based on inflation, CJ? And is everybody else? Do you think that is the most important driver in this electoral cycle?
I could name about 5 issues that this president's bombing.
So you think inflation
let's talk
is going to be
immigration,
part
national security?
Okay, so inflation, according to CJ, will be one of 5 issues to be, voted on this year. And I would say that's probably, as of right now, we don't know. It's not a great one, man. Inflation has been coming down. We're probably going to see the Fed, which is not related to any, taking orders from this administration, CJ and Republicans out there, they act independently. They decide whether or not they're going to raise and lower their rates. Based on the way the economy is going and things are happening, the Fed will most likely actually lower some rates between now and the election in November. And if that's the case, that's an indication that we're getting closer to what the accepted level of inflation would be. And we're having some pretty decent job growth. So while that may be one of 5, I'm thinking, again, who knows what happens between now and then, that will be lower on the list than it is right now. Thanks for the call, CJ.
Well, I think you might be wrong in this case, Tom, because I think it is the number one issue in America right now among Democrats and Republicans, the cost of living. Now, you can call it inflation, you can call it greed, you can call it whatever you want to, but the people have hardly noticed that the inflation rate has gone down. They've hardly noticed. If you ask the opinion of the American people, the vast majority of them feel like the rent's too damn high. And unfortunately, these economic issues do drive the electorate. So I do think if Joe Biden's got a problem, it's not his age, it's not his kid, it's the economy. That's the problem. Whether right or wrong, people have the polling suggests that people have the perception that the economy is bad for them.
The rates go from 8% down to 6% or 5% for buying a
if
home.
You're
before the end of the year, before the election cycle, that's going to take some of the wind out of those sales, Crute. And certainly,
buddy, the rate was
other folks have some selling to do. There's more to the economy than just inflation. There's wage growth as well. There's expansion of the GDP. There's lots of things that go into it. And of course, you can talk about the greedflation as well. So yeah, I mean, you can talk about people's perceptions, and then you can talk about what the facts are. And while there may be a gap between people's perceptions and what the facts are, well, that's up to the messaging and those selling the candidates. All I can talk about are what the facts are. I'm not going to be messaging for anybody. But if you see what is being reported right now and what the rates are now, what the Fed's discussing right now, rates are going to be getting cut soon.
That's predictive. That's not a known quantity. And that would probably indicate a recession. So be careful what you wish for with the lowering of rates. And I got to tell you, Dom, if I got my rate locked in at 2.5% or 3%, we go from 8 to 6. Does that change my life one iota? Does that give me any sort of relief financially? No, not really. Doesn't allow me to refi. Doesn't allow me to probably afford an equitable or a larger home if I had a couple kids in the meantime, and it's time to move up now. No, the difference between an 8% and a 6% interest rate, that might be good for
on a historical basis is low. This is, again, you are perpetuating this gap between reality and perception. You keep it on. 6% interest rates are good interest rates, dude. They're not 2.5, not 3, but historically those are low.
Yeah, but if you're locked in at 2.5 or 3, a 6% interest rate doesn't do a GD thing for you, man.
You're going to wait for Biden, which doesn't happen, the Fed to get down to 3%? I mean, why were they? Because we were in a terrible recession back in the day. 844-967-2789. We'll be right back.
Any music requests for the next 2 segments? Money by Pink Floyd.
Testing 1 2. Yeah, it still sounds really funky. Check 1 2.
Okay, cool.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, we're testing something in the studio.
Is there a show tonight in here?
Tom, anything you want to hear?
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Back to work Monday edition. Some of us are working from home, though, Dom. It's curled up under a Afghan. You know, it's not difficult work. It's not hard work. It's radio work. But I appreciate all the audience for sticking around and giving me a few home remedies. Maybe I'll be feeling better and back to the office soon.
Gotta get rid of that sour belly, Crute.
I do have a sour belly. Cam from Nina says $384.17 electric bill. Just saying. And no, I'm not growing marijuana. Be cooler if you did. Jeff from Shorewood. Inflation is global. Actually, we've been low relative to the world inflation, and most American inflation has simply been price gouging since COVID. And then you may not like this one, Dom. I don't know if I want to call you out on the air. Maybe you could read it if you feel comfortable doing so.
I don't have it, so you're going to have to.
Hey, Dom, tell me you make well into six figures without telling me you make well into six figures. Oh, those interest rates are low. Now, I've known you for a while. It's been a while since you made well into the six figures.
I'm just saying.
Unless something's changed, but it's not the radio gig.
I'm just pointing out. You can look. It's all historical data, folks. You want to look at what the interest rates have been since the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, it's all there. You can see it. You can see it. I mean, I'm not
facts and
making it
figures.
up. I'm just saying, if you're going to, I'm not taking away from people's mind. Oh, this seems expensive. Yeah, I get it, man. I bought a sub and some soup today. It was like $14 with a tip. That seems expensive for a soup and sandwich, man. I get that. But if you compare it to everything else, you compare it, as Jeff says, to worldwide inflation. You compare it to historical inflation, historical mortgage rates specifically. If you're going to hold off on doing a house, buying engaging in a real estate transaction because you're waiting for mortgage rates to get below 3%, good luck. I mean,
I'm not suggesting people are waiting on the lowering of interest rates.
That's exactly what you said before we went to break, Crute. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm telling you, the reduction of rates from 8 to 6 is not going to get her done. And no, I don't think we're going back to quantitative easing and 3% home mortgage rates anytime soon, to my opinion. Just one man's opinion.
Yes, and I concur with that. I don't think we will.
So what do you do with the 65% of Americans that are homeowners that can't sell their home because they can't afford a new option? That's been part of it. And when you get a new home, you buy new couches, you buy new appliances. It keeps the whole economic cycle going. I mean, it is a good indicator of consumer confidence, whether or not they're buying houses. And my only conjecture, Dom, is...
I'm sorry, finish your thought.
My only conjecture is if you're at 3% on a $250,000 mortgage, and now you need a bigger house, and you go up to 6% on a $400,000 mortgage, that math doesn't work for a lot of families. They're going to get stuck.
No question. I mean, it doesn't work. And I've actually personally been in this situation. I got a super low rate, lower than 3% on my current home. My kids are off to school, man. I technically don't need the house that I have. I could, move into a condo.
Empty nesters. Downsize, Dom. Downsize.
I look at, and I'm not.
You could live in a hobbit hole somewhere.
I'm not a big take care of the lawn guy or house maintenance guy or clean the gutters guy or any rake the lawn, mow the lawn. I mean, I'm not really one of those guys. So I'm probably better off not having a property that has those kinds of maintenance needs. That actually you're there, right? But oh my God, you're right. When I look at other homes that are out there, and of course now this time of year, the market, real estate market, residential real estate market certainly slows down. So, but I'm in that situation. I would like to, ponder the thought of moving out to a condo or something and not have the house that I have and do something different. But yeah, you look at the rates. Oh my God, the spread, the cost it would cost me to move out to do that is a lot. So I'm not going to do it. Now, is that opportunity cost? I don't know what you call that. But for me, not engaging in buying a smaller residence for me because rates are higher and the rate I have right now is so dirt cheap. I mean, I could. I'm just not going to. Because why would I at this point? I don't hate the house.
Because other people need your house. Other people need your housing inventory. And you're being a selfish bastard by not listing it for sale. If you're so damn happy about the U.S. economy, Dom, you should suck it up, bite the bullet, and just go buy the cheaper house because rates will come down in the spring. I heard a guy say it on the radio today.
Well, they'll eventually come down, more like the second quarter, and they're going to slowly come down. But that is a real predicament. That is why I am literally in that statistic where you read the articles about the housing market, what's going on in real estate right now. Well, it's hard to get people to move out of their home when they have a less than 3% rate. That is a rate you're not going to see in your lifetime.
Probably not. Not again.
But
I didn't have.
So if you decide not to engage in the capitalism to continue on, is that a bad thing because you don't want to incur the cost? Because Crute wants to sell some furniture. I mean, I don't know what you're saying, man.
Jeff texted in, Dom needs a sugar daddy like Scott K. Walker to buy him a condo and let him move in for a little side action.
Right. 844-967-2789. We got some callers. Let's get to them. Joe from Madison, you're up. Happy days, Joe. What do you got for us?
Hey, Joe.
Well, I'd just like to talk to CJ and others about you said you guys have an aversion to facts. Well, here are some facts. Over the last 50 years, the average mortgage rate has been 7.7%. Okay? That's average over the last 50 years. Mortgage rates got as high as 18.6 in 1981. And I sure remember those rates. And I remember people who had CDs and money to invest in treasuries were making out like bandits. And they're screaming when rates went down to 2%, 1%, and, I can't make any money on this. And I then terribly stressed. So think about that. Over the last 50 years, the average has been 7.7% for mortgage rates. It has been an unbelievable deal when people were able to get those 3% mortgages. But it's not going to exist forever. The averages are against you. So I just think that and the consumer price index has fallen by 3.2% over the last year. It's dropped down from 9% inflation down to this 4.5 in the last year. So things are going down in terms of inflation. And boy, I understand that it's frustrating, but man, I remember looking for houses when rates were, at 18%, and it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. So I remember when people told me, a guy who was a mortgage banker, MA in mortgage banking, told me that rates will never get below 10%. If it gets to 10%, grab it. I think it's easy to think that what you had before, you're still going to always have. It was great to have mortgage rates so low. It was hellacious for people who wanted to get some money on their CD rates, elderly, that sort of thing, who were looking to save, and they had no vehicle in which to do it. And I remember people who had CDs back in 1980s, and they were looking at rates of 17% on a CD. Try to find that now. It's always a juggling act, people. It's always a juggling act. Thanks a lot, you guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Joe, appreciate it.
844-967-2789. I want to read a couple of texts. And Dom, I actually did the math. So I've got the math prepared. I did it before I ever came on the radio with you or CJ. I had the facts and figures. I just didn't want to argue math on the radio with CJ, but I will do so with you in just a moment, Dom. Here is what a couple of texters say. I'd be happy with under 5%. Actually, I won't be able to move until they're under 5% because I live within my means. Looks like you better take a high-paying radio job. The interest rate is meaningless if you can't afford a down payment. Yeah, that's true. Here's another one. Built our home during the Reagan era. Talk about high interest rates. And then they said, same Reagan era, I think it's Jeff from Shorewood said, bought my first house at 7%, now at 3.75. Here's a little math. Because I actually looked it up, and I did the math on this. The highest interest rate that I could find historically was 18.45%. That was, I believe, 1981. I think Joe made a very similar reference, 18.6. I didn't find them that high. But let's assume the highest interest rate at that time, the Reaganomics. And at that time, the average home price in America was $67,000. So let's assume you put the 20% down. You were borrowing $52,000 at 18.45%. I would also point out the the average median income at that very same time that I'm using the interest rates from was about $24,000 a year. Actually, it was like $23,445 a year. I'm going to do a rounding error and call it $2,000 a month. And for my old mortgage lending days, Dom, I remember like 40%. It's like a high debt ratio. You get over 40 and maybe you don't get the loan. But
loan to
at
value
18,
ratio.
Well, and loan to value is actually how much money you have down. The ability to afford principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, that's a different math calculus. And if you don't hit those ratios, you don't get the money. Now, I don't know what I don't know what the property taxes were then. I didn't extend my math all the way out through looking up historical property taxes in somebody's backyard.
Sure.
But here's what I can say. If you take the current median home price here in the United States, which is about $431,000, and you look at what the median income has done since the 1980s, we're up to a whopping $67,000. Guess what? The American people didn't get that raise. So if you had to buy that house at $431,000 at, let's call it, I think I used a 7.5% interest rate, somewhere close to that. And I did the calculation, you're at about $2,446 per month. Crudy's math, but I used to do this for a living. And here's what I can tell you. Your debt ratios at 7.5% under current market standards, a house is less affordable to you as the median earner in the United States than it was in 1981 with 18.45% interest rates. Harder to afford a house now.
And that is because, just to summarize, individual earnings haven't gone up in value as much as the rest of it did. It didn't keep pace.
Well, the individual earnings has not kept pace. The cost of the house has multiplied by an astronomical figure. $431,000 is 6 times higher than the former, whatever it was, $67,000 median home price in America. Right. 431 is like 6 times that number. So your income went up 2.5, 3 times, and the home prices went up 6 times. So even with the outrageously high interest rates that few can remember, although I wasn't buying anything from a real estate perspective, I was in my early teens then, I can tell you, Dom, under current market conditions, it is harder to afford a house today than it was in 1981.
844-967-2789. Jake from Milwaukee, you're up. Welcome, Jake. What do you got?
Yeah, hold on. Oh, okay, it's better. Sorry.
What am I holding on to precisely? Go ahead.
Observation. Well, your stomach. But observation is when you're sick. When you're sick, you do your homework. When you're not, who knows?
I did that homework a couple of weeks ago, and I just never have had opportunity to roll it back out. But I was blessed with a pretty strong memory, Jake. So those sort of numbers, facts, and figures stick in my head.
That was some good information, actually. I mean, it tells you exactly, with an actual factual basis, what has happened with home prices in the last 20-some years. Now, my thing is that CJ's right. I don't pay for anything because I get money from George Soros. Now, I don't know what you guys are talking about. For years, you haven't been able to get the George Soros money. And it's like rolling off the log. I don't have to pay bills, pay heat. I don't have to buy my own food. I mean, it's great. I mean, being a liberal, I mean, it's like you're a corporation and you get everything for free. You know? Anyways, and just about home prices is there's another thing that's happening because buying a home and keeping it's expensive. A lot of corporations are buying up single-family homes and renting them out, which is horrible because the problem is we want more people to be in single-family homes instead of rentals because it's better for neighborhoods and just for everything overall. So,
well, certainly we do, Jake, but when the outside influences in the market, like corporate investment in single-family homes, have inflated the home prices by 6 times over, but in the same 40 years, our average median wage earner in the United States is only 2.5 or triple his salary, that math don't add up. More devil's advocates.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, our last segment of the day. If you got something to say, hit us up right now at 844-967-2789. Stick around. The Maggie Dawn Show is coming up next.
Dominic, I have a slightly less political thought. You know, Crute loves him some cookies, man. I love cookies.
Yes, I know.
Have you seen that the Cookie Monster original recipe cookies have now been exposed to the public? We can now make the Cookie Monster cookies at our own home. Although the glue in there, you can eat them. Or you can just, like he does, and he's got crumbs flying.
Yeah, man, I love the cookie.
They are the perfect cookie. The cookie doesn't break down in Cookie Monster's hands, but they get hundreds of crumbs flying out. And today, and I've seen it at multiple sources, Fox News, New York Times, everyone is very intrigued with the Cookie Monster cookie recipe, Dom. And I got to say, if I ever get up off this chair and feel better again, I'm gonna need some cookies to make myself whole. I'm just planting seeds right now, if you know what I'm saying. A couple days from now, not the Cookie Monster recipe.
Okay.
But I'm going to be back to begging cookies again.
What was it about? What is so special about the Cookie Monster recipe? I mean, did you look at it? Was there any special?
Oh, of course.
Special sauce.
I was thinking about it. It wasn't the Korean barbecue sauce that put me off. It was the glue added. I didn't think that, although they claim they're edible, barely, more of a prop cookie. But, I think we could go into business. I think we could monetize these cookies, Dom. A little less, a little less glue and a little more chocolate chip, man, and we're gonna get rich.
A prop.
If Cookie Monster only share with me.
That's just wrong.
I am the second name in cookies, Dom. Not Mrs. Fields. Cookie Monster 1.
Crute Monster
2.
Crute
Monster
the
2.
Cookie Monster? Yeah, all right, man. All right. 844-967-2789. You got any political thoughts, or is it all about the cooking, Crute?
Well, here's what I want to know, because I kind of tuned out on the Thanksgiving, just watched the Packers whoop up on Detroit. Didn't tune in for any of the politicking. What did Donald Trump have to say, Dom? You keep threatening to tell the audience, Trump, what was his tirade on Thanksgiving? Because I am blissfully unaware. I'm like Ron Johnson. I don't always monitor his truthy social account.
There's so much information. It's embarrassing, man. I mean, if anybody out there running for dog catcher or school board or mayor or whatever, any elected, put out, these kinds of social media posts, you would think they were bat guano crazy. I mean, for real. So here's what the former had to say. Happy Thanksgiving to all, in this case, capitalize the A.
All the vermin.
Happy Thanksgiving to all, including the racist and incompetent Attorney General of New York State, Letitia Peekaboo James, who has let murder and violent crime flourish, capitalized, and businesses flee, capitalized. The radical, and now we got a semicolon, the radical left Trump-hating judge, a psycho, Arthur Engeron, who criminally defrauded the state of New York and me by purposefully valuing my assets at a tiny fraction of what they are really worth in order to convict me of fraud before even a trial or seeing any proof, capitalized, and use his politically biased and corrupt campaign finance violator chief clerk Allison Greenfield to sit by his side on the bench, quote unquote, and tell him what to do. And crooked Joe Biden, who has weaponized his Department of Injustice against his political opponent and allowed our country to go to hell, capitalized, and all the other radical left lunatics, communists, fascist, Marxist, Democrats, and rhinos who are seriously looking to destroy our country, capitalized. Have no fear, however, we will win the presidential election of 2024 and make America great again. 3 exclamation points.
Sorry I missed that one in real time.
Happy Thanksgiving from the former president. Are you really? I mean, really? Seriously? This is from the mind, and he goes on today. Oh, because he's been saying Obama instead of Biden. Apparently, it's part of he's just being sarcastic. Of course he knows who the president is. He just thinks maybe Obama's, pulling the strings for Biden because Biden couldn't possibly be, the president. Must be Obama. Well, certainly not Trump. But for real, this is and he's done these things before. Happy Thanksgiving to all. I mean, that's all you got to say. Happy Thanksgiving to all. But to go on and talk I mean, what is it about that kind of language and mindset and messaging attracts people? Where's the unity? Where's the thanks? There's no thanks here. He says Thanksgiving, but there's no thanks. There's nothing. It's just, look at Happy Thanksgiving. I'm being persecuted by all these terrible people, and make America great again. What if you would have started out like this, have we just become numb to it? I mean, if any candidate gets out and says, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to all, except you F and you'd be like, oh my God, what is wrong with this person? Someone go see if they're okay. But we just accept this from Trump, and he's leading in the polls. This is what you want. This is messaging. This is leadership. This is celebrating Thanksgiving by the former president. It's an embarrassment. How is this acceptable? How does this continue? How does he still have followers? I don't understand.
It makes him more appealing because he says all the grotesque things they always want to say, but then someone's like, oh, you can't use the N-word. You can't be a blatant racist. But Trump gives them permission to do all those things. Hey, you know what's coming up on Thursday, Dom?
What's that?
A unique debate event. I'm wondering if you're going to watch the Gavin Newsom, Ron DeSantis debate on the Foxy News, moderated by the Sean Hannity.
Nope. Highlights, baby. I will no. Why? I mean, is Gavin Newsom running for president? No.
Well, DeSantis's team would like to imply he's running a shadow campaign. He's out there, he's just not an official candidate. But DeSantis is, and Iowa's coming on January 15th. And I think it's all over but the Scott Walker bitter tear crying for Ron DeSantis. Good thing they're getting this one in on Thursday night, before December even, right?
I don't know that DeSantis going up against Newsom would be a great idea for DeSantis. I just, what's the upside? He's not running against him politically, at least right now, unless Joe backs out and the dude jumps in.
Well, because he can claim my state does it right, red Florida, but look at blue California. You don't want to get stuck with blue policies.
Yeah, but you got to make an argument with Gavin Newsom, who's going to be probably a little more articulate than DeSantis. I'm just saying. We'll see. I think
it could be an ass whooping of monumental proportions. That's why I will watch. I'll do it so you don't have to. Thank you all for listening to the Devil's Advocates. Maggie Dawn is next in the Paul Revere Show. And don't forget Badger Hoop streaming out WFHR, WRJN, and across the Civic Media Network.